Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since you guys have seen me. I was on a roll, I feel like, when it came to content across all the social medias. My platform on Instagram was growing, but then I got pregnant, which was such a blessing in itself, but it was so challenging. And today I'm gonna kind of go through my little pregnancy story, just in case anybody else is going through the same things out there. I'm also gonna try to go through some of my labor things too, because it's been a while. My baby is now no longer a newborn. She's actually an infant. She just hit 8 months. It's crazy how time flies by. Like, I just can't even believe that. Sometimes I'm just like, I have a child. I just cannot believe it. But throughout the process, well, let me go back. When I found out that I was pregnant, I was actually in shock. I don't know why I was in shock, but I was in shock, I guess, because I was going through a lot of physical things as far as endometriosis and fibroids. So I really thought I was going to have a very hard time trying to have a child, but that wasn't, I guess, completely the case for me. Although we weren't trying, we were saying that we're going to get ready to try, because I was looking at different options for possible surgery, some natural healing as far as like herbal teas and things as it relates to my actual fibroids. And I wanted to do all those things before having a baby or even going through the whole pregnancy process. But of course, it's never your timing, it's always God's. And with that being said, I ended up like getting pregnant. And that was what, August 2022. Of course, this is my first time being pregnant. I was in shock, but as time started to go on, I guess I started to get those hormones and everything like that. And I was like, oh, this is just, I'm doing okay. I'm doing well. I think my first doctor's appointment and I saw the ultrasound, I was like still in shock. But I wasn't really feeling anything as far as vomiting or any symptoms and anything like that. But as soon as like that next month after my appointment hit, I was completely sick. And I was sick from there, I'm sorry, all the way until a couple of minutes before labor. So I ended up being diagnosed with HG, which is like extreme vomiting during pregnancy. And then towards the end, I also had preeclampsia. I was completely sick. I would throw up, or vomit. That's the politically correct way to say that. About 3 or 4 times a day. I was throwing up so much that I lost about 40 pounds and I was pregnant. So you couldn't even really tell that I was pregnant. Mind you, I was already plus size and I need to lose weight. But I was so sick. I just kept losing weight. I couldn't keep anything down. And the scariest part for me about all of that was when I couldn't keep water down. Now, in about getting into like the 20-week time frame, I was like, look, I know they say that, pregnancy is different for everybody, but I am extremely sick. Like, it's hard for me. I was still working full time. I couldn't even this is why I couldn't do content. I couldn't do any business things. The only energy that I had was for my 9 to 5 trying to get ready for the baby and trying to take care of myself because I was depleted. I was so sick, I couldn't keep anything down, but it's really started to get scary for me around maybe the 20-21 week mark, where I couldn't keep water down. I switched water so many times. We usually drink like Mountain Valley. I tried all the glass bottles, all the plastic bottles. Nothing was working, even down to filtered water from the refrigerator. That didn't work as well. I was miserable, but I was very concerned. So around about 20-21 weeks, I went to my OB. I told them my concerns. I'm like, look, it's still not going away. Of course, they had already prescribed me like Zofran and some other prescriptions. They didn't work either. And then like I forgot what it was called. I feel like I forgot what it's called, but it has like the Zofran in it, and it connected to your belly, and you kind of press like a button, so it's constantly pushing the medicine in it. And I'm really not big on medicine anyway, but the regular medicine wasn't working, so I didn't even want to go that route because it was already extreme. But around that time, my doctor referred me to go to a specialist because every time they did measurements, they started to notice that the baby wasn't growing at the rate that it should be for the weeks that I was already kind of in. And because of the fibroid that I had one of my fibroids is still on my left side, which is why it's hard for me to get this weight down on my stomach, was so big at the time that it was causing like usually when you're pregnant, the woman's belly, like from right here underneath the boobs, it'll start to kind of come out. It was like a gap going down and then out. And so they wanted me to start seeing a specialist because of the fibroid, but then also because they were a little concerned about the weight. So I would go see this specialist, and at first it was a drive there. Maybe the first 2 appointments, the baby weight was a little concerning, but once we got to that third, it was like they couldn't see amniotic fluid. It was so many issues to the point where I had to go be admitted to the hospital. And that was the first time I was admitted to the hospital for the pregnancy. I had multiple times after that. But I kept explaining to them, like, look, I'm not able to keep anything down, not even water. So I'm sure that is impacting, the baby. And it was really difficult for me throughout my pregnancy because I've always heard stories about women of color and women that look like us, them not taking us seriously, especially when it comes to pregnancy, and how many of us die during labor and things like that because they don't really take us seriously. And I felt like every time I would go, I would have to keep trying to advocate for myself. And that one time when I actually went to the specialist and they saw how low the amniotic fluid and everything was, they started to really be concerned, which of course that put me in a frenzy because I'm like, I've been complaining about this from the beginning of my pregnancy, and now I'm scared because I'm being admitted to the hospital. But once I got to the hospital, everything looked okay at first, and then when the doctor rushed in, I guess my levels were kind of going down, and the baby heart rate, because of course they put like the stress monitors on you. And at 21 weeks, they thought that they were going to have to take the baby, and I was like so scared. I just kept praying, like, look, I'm not ready. It's only 21 weeks. The baby is this small. She's gonna have to be in a NICU. I'm like, and then of course my mind goes to stuff that's not important, like, oh, I don't have a crib, I don't have a stroller, I don't have all these things that don't matter. So once that happened, I felt like I just kept praying. I'm like, please just let me go home today and we can figure out everything else down the line. And I was admitted into like an actual labor room after that, and they were like, we're just going to monitor you for a while. And thank God, a couple of hours later, once they put some IV fluids into me, the fluid went up, and so they were like, okay, you're fine. And they kept asking me if I was having contractions, which I'll get to that story later. But I was like, okay, thank God. So I finally went home. But from that 21 weeks up until 37 weeks when I had the baby, it was crazy. I literally had to go to the specialist about 3 times a week. And when I look back at it, I was so miserable. And my coworkers always remind me, because I would be complaining to them about never having a child again. But after you have the child, all that goes away. But I just think about it and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I went through all that. I would literally go see the specialist. I switched specialists from the one that was furthest from my house and the one that was down the street from my house that was connected to the hospital that I was actually going to labor in, which was a complete blessing to kind of meet that staff before actually going into labor. And so I would go to the specialist and my OB. Of course, you have like those regular appointments that you already have, depending on what week it is, like as it gets closer. So I still had those appointments with my OB, but I would literally go to the specialist like twice, sometimes 3 times a week, because it would always be up and down, because I was still constantly vomiting, which was still an issue. So they had to continuously, you know, monitor the baby's weight, make sure she was still growing. Even though she wasn't growing at the rate that she was, they still wanted to make sure that we was making progress. So that was an issue throughout the pregnancy. And they also wanted I'm sorry, to keep measuring the fluid around, making sure that the baby was healthy, making sure that I wasn't going into labor. And then like I said, towards the end, I think because I was so stressed from everything that was going on and having to go to the doctor so many times, I ended up having preeclampsia. So by the time I got to 37 weeks, well, in between that time, I probably was admitted to the hospital maybe like 5 or 6 more times, and that was to get like IV fluids so that I would have some type. I felt like, even though I kept complaining about the vomiting and everything like that, and it was nothing they could really do. And sometimes I didn't think they really took me that seriously when it came to that, because they just kept saying like, oh, you know, you're going through it because you're pregnant. And on top of that, I felt like because I was plus size, they probably felt like, oh, well, she doesn't look like she's, you know, dying. But I was. And so when I did get those appointments where they were monitoring the baby, I would end up some appointments having to go directly into the hospital because my fluid will be so low. And I'm telling them like, look, I think it's a connection with me vomiting. I'm not keeping down any water, so I'm sure that's going to impact the amniotic fluid. So most of the time I will be at the hospital, and it would literally be to get IV bags. They'd be like, you're so dehydrated, like the nurses. And so once they would give me 2 IV bags and check the baby again, everything will be fine. And then I'll go home and then go to a couple of appointments and then do the same thing all over again. And have to go to the hospital and get IV fluids again. I wish in this video I could tell you how to survive HG, but honestly, it's no way. If anybody, now I'm thinking about having another baby later on down the line, but I'm like, I hope that I don't have to go through that again. But really what kept me alive was honestly, which is sad, is that prayer and those IV fluids at the hospital. But I don't even know how I was able to work or even get up to do anything. Like, it was just a struggle, but I just kept pushing through. And it was so much a struggle that I didn't even think I was going to end up having my baby shower, because like I was saying, I would go multiple times to the doctor during the week, and every time it would be something different. Like, oh, I think we may have to take the baby now, we might have to induce you next week, we have to do this, we have to do that. And I was just so like scared and I knew that everything was going to work out the way that it was supposed to be, but it's that feeling of having to go to a doctor's appointment and not knowing what would happen or what was going to, you know, what would be the outcome of this appointment. So I think that really kind of put my nerves on edge, especially towards the end. Like I was saying, I didn't know if we was going to end up having a baby shower, but we did have a baby shower. Hopefully I could put a little clip of some things in here. It was so beautiful. I was sick then. I couldn't even really eat anything at the baby shower because I was so sick. But towards the end of my pregnancy, I was able to kind of get water down more. It would have to be ice cold water. And if you know me, you know I hate ice water. I really hate cold drinks, honestly. But it has to be ice cold. And I would have like this fake Stanley cup that I got off of Amazon, but it got me through the end of the pregnancy. And it couldn't be just any ice. It had to be Chick-fil-A ice. So we would get bags of the Chick-fil-A ice every week. And that literally saved me at the end of my pregnancy. But of course, the baby and me, we weren't doing that well towards the end. So after my baby shower, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks after, I had to be induced. The amniotic fluid was too low for them to let me go home. And they needed me to go ahead. Honestly, they pushed it out so that I could be full term at 37 weeks, because 2 weeks before that I was already struggling, and I had to come in like maybe 3 times a week during that time so that they could continuously monitor, because they were so nervous about me sending me home and then something bad happening. But I ended up actually going into labor at 37 weeks. And actually a day before, I was actually supposed to be induced, because at my appointment, the amniotic fluid was so low, they just went ahead and took me. So the labor was actually very easy, which I don't know if that's a lot of women's you know, what they go through. Well, I haven't watched videos recently, but I know a lot of women end up getting C-sections and all those other things. But I knew I wasn't going to have to go through that, because the baby was already so small. I think at that time she was already measuring maybe about 4 pounds. And when I had her, she was 4 pounds 10 ounces. But I already knew I wasn't going to have to get a C-section, so that stress was, you know, off the list. And I think maybe it was a balance because of everything I went through. So sometimes you gotta look at the good in it, even when it's chaotic and stressful. But once I actually went into labor, I was at my appointment on a Monday. I was actually scheduled to be induced that next day on a Tuesday, but at my appointment, like I was saying, they was like, you gotta go. We have to get a room ready for you today. So I don't know why I didn't put the bags in the car. I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it till Tuesday. That's just what I was thinking, but I didn't. So we were there, we were waiting for our room to be ready. Got into the room, my husband came back to get all our bags that I had managed to start putting together, because I'm like, look, excuse me. I'm like, look, it's too many things going on. We need to be ready. The last time I didn't have my bags ready. We done already got the room ready. This beautiful room that she doesn't even sleep in. And I was like, we have to be prepared. But for some reason, we didn't put the bags in the car. So I waited. He put the bags in the car. They had me fill out some paperwork. I got dressed in one of the gowns that they had. With the stuff that he was picking up was some of the things that I would suggest you get, and I'm going to actually link them below. I know it's thousands of videos about what you're going to need for labor and everything like that. You don't need all that stuff. You need one. If it's anything you're going to get this one thing. It's the Frida baby no, Freedom Mom, I think it is, because they have Freedom Baby and Freedom Mom. So it's the Freedom Mom postpartum kit, and this one has everything in it, absolutely everything you're going to need. Anything else the hospital is going to give to you. You don't need all of this stuff, because you're going to end up taking all these damn bags to the hospital. Oops, excuse me. You're going to take all these bags to the hospital that you absolutely don't need. That, and then of course some of the things that you want to have for the baby, like the first outfit, things like that, like those little special things that you want to pack. But I would say that one item you don't need none of the other stuff. Get the one box, and I'll have it down in the bottom of the description. That's all you need. That's what I took with me. That's what I used when I was there. When I came back, and the only extra thing that I had to order outside of that was more ice packs. I had of course, this is my first baby, so I'm watching all the videos, getting all this stuff that I did not need that I ended up donating, giving away, and everything like that. But that kit definitely helped. But before using the kit and actually going into labor, I was there for a couple of hours. Like I said, I had to be induced, but I didn't have to get Pitocin or any of those other drugs that they give you, because I really wanted to have like a natural birth. Now, I had a lot of pain, and once the contractions came, I realized that that was not the only time that I was having contractions, and now I see why they kept saying my amniotic fluid was low, and was I feeling anything. But because like I said in the beginning of this video, I had so many issues going on with like my fibroid and endometriosis, I just thought that, you know, it was always heavy in that area, and whenever I had pain for like my cycles and things like that, it would be aggressive, and I knew it was because of that. And throughout pregnancy, I thought the same thing, that a lot of the pressure, especially that was coming on my left side, was because of that large fibroid that sits. And once the contractions started coming and I saw it on the screen, I'm like, this is not contractions. I think this is going to be something completely worse, but of course it's different for everybody. But once my water broke, I thought I was dying. My water broke, and it was crazy. One, they shouldn't have let me eat. I think that kind of made everything 10 times worse, because they let me eat, and then it was like my blood pressure went high. It was crazy. Like the doctor came in, he was like, look, I'm going to sit with you, and like I was talking about a little bit earlier in the video about how women of color that look like me end up passing away in labor because they don't take it seriously. When they saw that my blood pressure was high, he came in, he was like, look, I'm gonna have to put this in your IV, you know, we don't want to lose you. He sat with me the whole time, flipped me on my side, make sure I was calm, because I felt fine. I didn't feel like I was in stress or anything like that. I was just like, okay, you know, I see the screen, I hear the stuff going off, but I'm like, I feel fine. But he did sit with me until it went lower, and I was very, very appreciative of that. Bless him for, you know, doing that and making sure that I was okay. And then a couple of hours later, like I was saying, them contractions was serious after my water broke. And I tried to lay down, and that didn't really work that well because I could feel everything on my left side. Like I was saying, that's where I usually get my pain at. And I was just like, look, I'm so tired, like let me just try to go to sleep. And I just tried to go to sleep, and then I ended up waking up. And the reason why I woke up is because I felt like I had to vomit, which ended up happening. And I was trying to get my husband's attention, but he was asleep. And then once he woke up and I was like, can you get a bucket? Well, he woke up in shock, and he was trying to find a bucket, and it was too late. I had threw up, and I was just like, my side is paining me so bad. Like, I'm like, why is he? I'm like, okay, you guys says the contractions is going to come, but they feel like they're coming close together. Like, it has to be time. Like, the last time y'all checked me, it said I was 2 centimeters dilated. I'm like, it has to be more. So I'm like, where's the call button? I'm calling the nurse. I'm like, look, I just threw up. I don't feel well. I think I need to go use the bathroom to like do a number 2 or something because of the food that I had. I think it's not selling them right because I couldn't keep nothing down anyway. So I don't even know why I ended up doing that. But when she came, she was like, let me check you. And the head was already coming out. And I'm like, this is why I'm dying. So I just was holding on to the bed rail like, and she was on the phone, on the call button, like panicking because I guess it was maybe like 6 something in the morning, and she was like, I need this person, that person, and everybody just rushed in. The doctor looked at me and was like, okay, we're ready when you are. I'm like, I'm ready, because I was holding on. Like, tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to do. So the nurse was like, Dad, grab this leg. Mom, grab my hand. We're gonna grab this leg and just squanch. And I just was pushing for dear life. That first push, I'm like, whew. I'm like, dang, that was a lot. And the baby still didn't come out. Then they were like, no, come on. You gotta, I'm like, look, I just want to catch. I was just like, I wasn't even crying. I was just trying to catch some type of air. I was just like, I need like some air. I was just like, everything was just happening so fast. Then they was like, come on, we gotta do it again. She's almost out. She's almost out. And I pushed for that second time. Y'all, after I pushed that second time, I said, this is gonna take too long. I can't do this. And I just fell back in the bed like, they said that, because I'm thinking in my mind like, they said that she's almost out. This damn second push that I just pushed for my life, she's still not out. I think I'm dying. And then the nurse grabbed me and she looked at me, she said, focus. I said, okay. And I pushed for the last like time and she really was out. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like so in shock because for some reason in that process, I just thought, I knew it was going to be way longer than 10 minutes. And I just looked at my husband. We were just like, oh my God, like tears wasn't even coming out of my eyes because I was just in shock. I was just like, oh my God, I just had a baby. Like she was out. They went ahead and did the process of, you know, cutting, sending the placenta off. I did want to get my placenta encapsulated, but I needed to get it tested because of all the things that I was going through to kind of figure out if it was the actual placenta that was failing or was something else that was contributing to everything. But I wish I could have, but I wasn't able to go through that process. But after that, just like them wiping her off real quick and giving her to me and us just doing that bonding time, it was like everything. And waking up to her every morning is like such a blessing. And I'm trying not to get emotional because I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to have kids in this lifetime. And going through all the things that I went through in my pregnancy, I wasn't sure she was going to make it. And to actually like see her come out and be healthy and me still be okay, even though like my blood pressure, they had to kind of monitor me for like another day in the hospital. Like everything just worked out the way that it was supposed to be. And it's nothing else that, you know, could have been as perfect as it all ended up to be after. And I'm just so happy and grateful to, you know, my angels, my ancestors, and my guides that walk with me every day, because they truly got me through my pregnancy and my labor. And after that, life was never the same. And that's in a good way. I know we always talk about, and you know what, actually I'm gonna end this right here. Thank you for staying with me with my long all over the place story of my actual pregnancy and my labor story. But stay with me for part 2 as I go through what happened once we brought our baby home and my life coming till now with a baby. So bye guys.